Gary was sitting on a rock eating a banana when Rex pulled up to the gas station. Rex had filled his tank 100 times. But this time he stopped and looked at the pump differently. He did not ask why the price was high. He already knew that story. This time Rex asked something different. He asked where the fuel actually came from. Not the station. Not the refinery. All the way back to the beginning. Gary put down his banana. This was going to take a while. Chapter 1. What oil actually is, ****. Oil is not something humans invented. It was already there, sitting underground, waiting. It formed over millions of years from the remains of tiny organisms that lived in ancient oceans. When those organisms died, they sank to the seafloor and got buried under layers of rock and sediment. Over millions of years, heat and pressure transformed that organic material into crude oil and natural gas. Rex realized he had heard this part before. His ancestors were involved. Gary nodded. This was one of the few times Gary did not find that funny. Crude oil is a dark, thick liquid. Natural gas is lighter and rises into underground pockets beneath rock formations. Both are found in the same geological structures. Which is why the industry that extracts them is called oil and gas together. Chapter 2. Finding it and getting it out, ****. The first problem is finding where the oil actually is. Geologists send sound waves into the earth and measure how they bounce back from different rock layers. Rex thought this sounded like throwing rocks into a swimming pool and listening to find something buried at the bottom. Gary said that was actually a reasonable description. Most exploration wells find nothing useful. The industry calls this a dry hole. Only a fraction of exploration wells produce commercially viable oil or gas. When oil is found, massive drilling rigs are brought in. On land or floating on the ocean. In early wells, underground pressure pushes oil up naturally. Over time the pressure drops and pumping begins. Eventually even pumping is not enough. Water, steam, and chemicals get injected to push remaining oil out of the rock. Rex thought about squeezing a nearly empty tube of toothpaste. Gary said that was exactly right. The whole process costs billions of meteors before a single barrel reaches the surface. Chapter 3. Moving it around, ****. Getting oil out of the ground is only the beginning. Then it has to get somewhere useful. Pipelines are the cheapest way to move oil and gas over land. They run thousands of miles buried underground. Rex thought of a pipeline as a very long drinking straw connecting an oil field to a refinery or port. When pipelines are not possible, tanker ships carry the oil across oceans. Some carry over 2 million barrels in a single trip. Natural gas is harder to transport because it is a gas, not a liquid. To move it by ship it has to be cooled to extremely low temperatures until it liquefies. This is called LNG. The terminals and ships required to handle LNG cost billions of meteors to build and operate. Rex asked why anyone bothered. Gary said because demand for natural gas exists everywhere on the planet and the money follows the demand. Chapter 4. Turning it into something useful, ****. Crude oil cannot power a car directly. It has to be refined first. A refinery takes crude oil and separates it into different products using heat. Different components of crude oil evaporate at different temperatures. Each fraction gets collected separately as it cools. The lightest fractions become gasoline. Slightly heavier ones become jet fuel. Heavier still become diesel and heating oil. The heaviest residue becomes asphalt for paving roads. Nothing gets wasted. Rex suddenly realized that the road under his car and the fuel inside his tank both came from the same underground liquid. Gary said this was one of those realizations that changes how you see everything around you permanently. Natural gas gets cleaned, separated into components, and sent through pipelines to homes, power plants, and factories. It heats buildings, generates electricity, makes fertilizer, and produces the heat needed to manufacture steel and glass. Rex had not expected the fertilizer part. Gas to fertilizer to food. The chain was longer than he thought. Chapter 5. Who controls it? ***. The oil and gas industry is structured in layers most people never think about. At the top are national oil companies owned by governments that sit on large reserves. These companies control the majority of the world's proven oil reserves and make decisions that affect every price at every pump on the planet. Below them are the large international oil companies with refineries, pipelines, and gas stations most people recognize. Below those are thousands of smaller specialized companies that actually drill the wells, build the pipelines, and operate the refineries. Rex had always thought of the oil industry as a handful of giant companies. It is actually a vast ecosystem with hundreds of thousands of workers at every stage. Chapter 6. The problem Rex could not skip, ***. Rex wanted to understand the industry fully. Which meant he could not avoid this part. Burning oil and gas releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide traps heat from the sun. The planet warms. The scientific consensus on this has been clear for decades. The industry itself understood the problem early. Internal documents from major oil companies decades ago showed their own scientists knew the risks clearly. Rex thought about a meteor again. Not the meteor cartel kind. The kind that ended his ancestors. The difference was that this one moved slowly enough that it was hard to see coming until it was already there. Gary did not find this funny at all. Rex was holding a fuel nozzle in his tiny arm. He needed the fuel to get to work. He did not feel like a villain. He did not feel like a hero. He felt like someone trying to understand a complicated situation honestly while standing inside it. Gary said that was probably the most accurate way anyone could feel. Chapter 7. The transition already happening, ***. The oil and gas industry is already changing. Renewable energy is growing faster than almost anyone predicted 10 years ago. Electric vehicles are taking a growing share of new car sales in many countries. But transitions take time. The global energy system is enormous and cannot change overnight. For now, oil and gas remain central to how the world generates electricity, heats buildings, makes products, and moves people and goods. Rex put the nozzle back in the pump. He looked at the price on the display. He understood now what that number represented. Millions of years of geology. Billions of meteors of exploration. Miles of pipeline. Ships crossing oceans. Refineries running day and night. Thousands of companies operating at every step of a chain that stretched from deep underground to the tank in his car. Gary picked up his banana again. He said that was the thing about understanding a system fully. You stop being able to look at any part of it the same way again. Rex drove home. He thought about the road under his tires the whole way.